Hello and a very warm welcome to today's session brought to you by Team Textbook Super Coaching. I hope all of you are doing really well this Sunday afternoon rather. Today is the last day of the year, so just make sure that all your New Year resolutions are all sorted and you're all very clear as to what are you planning to do in 2024. देरी नहीं करते हुए फटाफट से आज की इस क्लास को स्टार्ट करते हैं. I'm also a little under the weather, so we'll keep it as brief and as precise as possible. I hope आपने कल का सेशन अच्छी तरह से रिवाइज कर लिया होगा. कल हम लोगों ने एक एडिफिस सेट किया था. वी टॉक्ड अबाउट ओल्ड इंग्लिश लिटरेचर, मिडीवल इंग्लिश लिटरेचर. That is what we had actually started looking at. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'll also share this so that everybody would know that we have started. मैंने आप लोगों के साथ वो एक पीडीएफ भी शेयर कर दिया था, जैसे कि कल मैंने आपको बताया था एलपीयू का पीडीएफ. आई विल बी शेयरिंग इट विद ऑल ऑफ यू. कि माय दिस थिंग इज नॉट वर्किंग. I think let's just quickly get started only. I'll try to see. Good afternoon. Hi, Angan, Satyendra, Liji. Liji, so good to see you on time. That's really nice. That's really nice. Monica, Devashish, Tehseen, Neha, Anjali, Shilpa. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Yes, Neha. Already the New Year vibes must have started, but also keep yourself very warm. Otherwise, you'll fall sick like me. देरी नहीं करते हुए फटाफट से स्टार्ट करते हैं. आज का हमारा ब्रॉड एजेंडा क्या होगा? आज का हमारा ब्रॉड एजेंडा होगा. अच्छा, आई वाज आल्सो टेलिंग यू yesterday the sources that have been used to curate the two decks yesterday और आज का. और आज भी जो पार्ट्स हमारे से कवर नहीं हो पाएंगे, सो दैट्स दिस बेसिक पियर्सन गाइड व्हिच इज कॉल्ड एन आउटलाइन टू इंग्लिश लिटरेचर. और साथ ही साथ में ब्रायन बोन वैसे भी इन्होंने काफी सारे वर्क्स और सेशंस दिए हुए हैं. इनका इंग्लिश लिटरेचर 101. तो ये जो दो चीजें हैं, इनमें से मैं आपको और भी एक सर्व्स इस हफ्ते देने वाली हूँ. कुछ चैप्टर्स, जैसे चैप्टर 1 अभी हम लोगों ने इसका कवर कर लिया है. चैप्टर 3 भी आज कवर हो जाएगा और चैप्टर 5 कवर हो जाएगा. तो बाकी के जो चैप्टर्स रहेंगे वो मैं आपको आने वाले सेशंस में कवर करवा दूंगी. और इस बुक के अंदर भी, ब्रायन बोन के अंदर भी, जैसे हर एक जो आपका टॉपिक है, जैसे वाइटक्लिफ का बाइबल हो गया, तो इन्होंने अच्छी तरह से सारा कुछ एक्सप्लेन कर रखा है. तो मैं हर एक दिन आपको एक एक टॉपिक, आई थिंक टोटल इन लोगों ने कितने पार्ट्स में डिवाइड कर रखा है. इन्होंने टोटल 7 चैप्टर्स में डिवाइड कर रखा है और हर एक चैप्टर में कम से कम 7 से 8 मॉड्यूल्स हैं. तो मैं ये 7 चैप्टर्स आपको 2 हफ्ते में टेलीग्राम पे कंटेंट के साथ दिलवा दूंगी. सो दीज आर द 2 रिसोर्सेज. मैं कल भी आपको रिसोर्सेज बताने वाली थी एंड आई कंप्लीटली फॉरगॉट, देयरफॉर आई मेड अ नोट ऑफ इट. और ऑल्सो आने वाले हफ्ते में हम जॉन सदरलैंड जो क्रिटिक है, उनकी बुक्स को काफी अच्छी तरह से एक्सप्लोर भी करेंगे. सो बी एक्साइटेड एंड मेक श्योर दैट यू आर ऑल up to speed when it comes to acquiring knowledge about literature is concerned. ठीक है. Good afternoon शिल्पा. Good afternoon यशिता. चलिए देरी नहीं करते हुए फटाफट से स्टार्ट करते हैं. आज का आपका मेन कंटेंट क्या रहने वाला है? What are the things that we will be looking at? What are the things that we will be exploring? सबसे पहले तो मैं आज का आपको जो हमारा ब्रॉड एजेंडा है वो क्लियर करवा देती हूँ. What is our broad agenda today? वहीं से हम लोग कंटिन्यू करेंगे जितना पार्ट कवर हो पाएगा. And then of course we will be following up with this discussion. Basic idea यही है कि चाहे आपका ब्रिटिश लिटरेचर ऑब्सोलीट हो जाए या ना आए नए सिलेबस के अंदर, बट फिर भी बेसिक सेट करने के लिए योर हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. और इसीलिए इन यूनिट्स को ठीक तरह से कवर करना इज इंपॉर्टेंट. अगर आप लोगों ने फर्स्ट पार्ट नहीं देखा है तो डेफिनेटली डू टेक अ लुक एट इट. एंड मंडे टू फ्राइडे यूट्यूब के अंदर तो सॉरी, वैसे मैंने आप लोगों को कहा था that I'll be telling you all about master class, but मैं आपको कल या परसों तक उसकी information दे दूंगी because I couldn't connect with the team member who was associated with that because of the New Year weekend. ठीक है. So 10:30 PM Monday to Friday फाउंडेशन बैच के क्लासेस. फाउंडेशन बैच में इस वीक हम लोग एक नया यूनिट स्टार्ट करने वाले हैं. दैट इज वेयर वी आर मीटिंग Monday to Friday at 8:30 PM in January and Monday to Saturday 8:30 PM. और भी जो एक्सक्लूसिव सेशंस धीरे धीरे करके आपके क्लासरूम सेशन पे बढ़ेंगे. यू कैन टेक अ लुक एट दैट. ओके. गुड आफ्टरनून मीनाक्षी. गुड आफ्टरनून बच्चे. आज का हमारा एजेंडा क्या है? आज हम लोग कंटिन्यू करेंगे हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज एंड लिटरेचर को पर्टिकुलरली कुछ क्विज कुछ ट्रिक्स के माध्यम से, जैसे व्हेन यू टॉक अबाउट वायट एंड सरे. ठीक है. तो आपको ये चीज याद रखनी है कि व्हेन वी आर लुकिंग एट किस तरह से कौन सरे जो है ब्लैंक वर्स कैसे इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं, वायट सोनेट फॉर्म को कैसे यूज कर रहे हैं. तो हम लोग कुछ एक्रोनिम से ये चीजें याद रखेंगे. वील आल्सो बी डिस्कसिंग हिस्टोरिकल इवेंट्स लाइक मिलिनरी पिटिशन. ये पिटिशन बहुत ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है बिकॉज ये आपको बताते हैं कि 17th सेंचुरी में कैसे फिशर्स बड़े, ये सब चीजें हम लोग कवर करने वाले हैं, बिटवीन मोनार्की एंड द प्यूरिटन्स, राइट, ऑल टुगेदर इन पार्लियामेंट में कैसे डिवाइड आया है, ठीक है। तो thanks, Divashish. That's so sweet of you. Good afternoon, Ronisha. Good to see you. Mithu, Minakshi, Ishita. ठीक है, तो ये सारी चीजें, फिर कॉन्सेप्ट्स लाइक पिटिशन ऑफ राइट बाय सर एडवर्ड पोप, क्योंकि ये क्वेश्चन भी आपका आया हुआ है. We'll also be talking about the three major Johns, that is your Milton, Bunyan as well as Dryden of the 17th century, क्योंकि 17th century भी आपके लिए काफी ज्यादा important है. And works like microcosmography या कैसे आइजैक वॉल्टन आ रहे हैं and he's writing the biography, so all of those concepts also we're going to be discussing today. तो आज हमारा एजेंडा रहेगा होलसम, जहां से कल हम लोगों ने छोड़ा है उससे जितना ज्यादा कवर कर सके आने वाले कुछ मिनट्स में वो हम लोग कवर करने की कोशिश करेंगे, ठीक है. इस हफ्ते हम लोगों ने काफी इंटरेस्टिंग नए नए टॉपिक्स को कवर किया था, राइट. We covered a lot of these topics all together. I'll come this side so that you'll be able to see it a little better. I want all of you वीकली बेसिस पे आपका कंटेंट अब बढ़ने ही वाला है, स्पेशली क्लासरूम प्रोग्राम भी अब एक्टिवली स्टार्ट हो जाएगा नेक्स्ट ईयर ऑनवर्ड्स, तो दैट मींस 2024 ऑनवर्ड्स. तो रेगुलर 1.5 आवर्स 90 मिनट्स की क्लासरूम क्लासेस, यूट्यूब भी आपकी 45 मिनट्स की रफली अराउंड क्लासेस और आपके मास्टर क्लासेस एक्सेट्रा. सो प्लीज डू नॉट फॉरगेट टू रिव्यू. उल्टा आज का आपका होमवर्क भी, आज मैं आपको एंड में भी यही बताने वाली हूँ, आज का आपका होमवर्क भी यही है. हम लोगों ने 24 दिसंबर को 20th सेंचुरी अमेरिकन पोएट्स किया था, मैंने उसका पीडीएफ दे दिया था, प्लीज स्किम थ्रू कीजिएगा. फिर हम लोगों ने कंपैरेटिव लिटरेचर के बेसिक्स किए थे, प्लीज इसको भी रिव्यू करिएगा. फिर हम लोगों ने डिफरेंट फॉर्म्स ऑफ ड्रामा को कवर किया था, जिसको हम लोगों ने कंटिन्यू किया था जब हम लोगों ने 28 को मॉडर्न यूरोपियन ड्रामा भी देखा था, राइट. मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट वुमेन राइटिंग्स को हम लोगों ने कवर किया था. एंड ऑफ कोर्स अंडरस्टैंडिंग प्रोज हमारा रिलेटिवली शॉर्टर था, और सैटरडे एंड संडे को हम लोग वी वर लुकिंग एट एन आउटलाइन ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर. तो प्लीज इंश्योर कीजिएगा कि आप हर एक जो क्लास है उसको अच्छी तरह से रिव्यू कर रहे हैं. मैं नीरजा मैम टेलीग्राम के ऊपर, राइट, नीरजा मैम टेक्स्ट बुक और टेलीग्राम चैनल के ऊपर या इंग्लिश लिटरेचर हसलर्स के ऊपर कंटेंट सारा का सारा शेयर करती रहती हूँ, लिंक्स सारे के सारे शेयर करती रहती हूँ, ठीक है. सो प्लीज इंश्योर कीजिएगा. गुड आफ्टरनून सुप्रतिम, गुड आफ्टरनून गोविंद जी, कि अगर मैं कभी कभी जैसे अगर अगले हफ्ते मैं आपको ये नहीं भी रियलाइज करवाती हूँ कि ये सेशंस हम लोगों ने कवर किए हैं, ये आपके खुद से आना चाहिए कि इतने लेसन्स हमारे हो गए हैं, इतने लेसन्स को रिवाइज करना पेंडिंग है. हर एक लेसन में जो जो मैंने आपको होमवर्क दिया था, जैसे एग्जिस्टेंशियलिज्म आपके एक होमवर्क के अंतर्गत आया था, फ्रेंच फेमिनिस्ट आपका आया था, सबॉल्टर्न थ्योरी, ट्रॉमा लिटरेचर, मतलब जो जो हर एक लेक्चर में मैंने आपको होमवर्क भी दिया है वो भी आपका अच्छी तरह से नोटेड होना चाहिए, वो भी आप अच्छी तरह से रिवाइज करे होने चाहिए, because that is something which will make or break your overall. देखो मोमेंटम रिदम इसी से ही बनता है, तो जब तक आप इसको नहीं करेंगे तो दैट इज गोइंग टू बी लाइक अ प्रॉब्लमैटिक, फिर कोई फायदा नहीं है. गुड आफ्टरनून सुजाता, कोई फायदा नहीं है अगर यहाँ पर आप टाइम भी इन्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं, तो प्लीज रिव्यू दैट. ओके, नाउ क्विकली आइस ब्रेकर क्वेश्चंस जल्दी से स्टार्ट करते हैं. Who were the original inhabitants of Britain from the Iron Age? कल हम लोगों ने बोला भी था, when we were talking about, if you remember, we had talked about कि Irish literature में आपका Celtic revival start हो रहा है. So who are the original inhabitants of Britain from the Iron Age? Iron Age से आपके important writers कौन कौन से हैं? Very good, Supratim. Kells is absolutely the right answer. Absolutely right, Tehseen, absolutely right. So Celts is absolutely the correct answer over here, right? Your Celts were the original inhabitants. That is what you were able to see. The Celts, they spoke the Celtic language, right? The Celts आपके क्या थे? They were the original inhabitants. I hope you've done that, right? When did the spread of Christianity happen? Spread of Christianity कब से start हुआ था? आपका ये जो spread of Christianity है, ये कब से आपका start हुआ था? When did the spread of Christianity actually start? स्प्रेड ऑफ क्रिश्चियनिटी, इससे पहले कौन सा रिलीजन था? इससे पहले पेगन रिलीजन फॉलो होता था, राइट. और हम लोगों ने कल डिस्कस भी किया था कि कैसे सेंट ऑगस्टीन आ रहे हैं और वो किंग एंड मोनार्क्स को भी कन्वर्ट कर रहे हैं. यहाँ पर आपको क्रूसेड्स के बारे में भी पता होना चाहिए, द होली वॉर्स दैट वर बीइंग फॉट बिटवीन मुस्लिम्स एंड क्रिश्चियंस, सो यू शुड नो अबाउट that element as well. Okay, pretty interesting, pretty interesting. So what are we able to see? We are able to see that aapka around 400. So when the Roman, remember the collapse of Pax Romana, right? The collapse of Pax Romana, and this actually coincided not just with the entry of the Germanic tribes, but it also coincided with the arrival of Christianity, right? Which was there to replace the pagan religion that was being followed earlier. तो ये चीज आपको याद रखना है कि how pagan religion was getting replaced 1699 तक pagan religion का completely replaced, it was replaced by Christianity आपका 597 के अंदर जो आपका Christianity properly arrive हो रहा है. Saint Augustine visit कर रहे हैं king of Kent को, and then he's also converting the king. So obviously when the king is itself converted, you're able to see that Christianity is setting proper foot when we are looking at the entire English society. तो ये चीज आपको थोड़ी बहुत ध्यान में रखनी पड़ेगी. Okay. All right. When did the Black Death and Peasants Revolt happen? When did the Black Death and Peasants Revolt happen? Black Death और Peasants Revolt कब हुआ था? आपका जो ब्लैक डेथ है और पेजेंट्स रिवोल्ट है ये कब हुआ था? कल मैंने आपको ये भी बताया था, वी लुक्ड एट चॉसर वेरी ब्रीफली. चॉसर को हम वैसे भी डायरेक्टली भी कवर करेंगे. दीज टू सेशंस वर जस्ट टू सेंसिटाइज ऑल ऑफ यू. आई वाज रियली हैप्पी टू सी कि आप लोग कैसे you were exchanging Routledge का PDF. I'll share it on the Telegram also because some of you may not be having it. So it was really nice to see that all of you are getting started, all of you are at least making an attempt to start your studies, which is really good. Okay, what is the correct answer? Absolutely right, absolutely right, absolutely right. That is the correct answer. So दोनों चीजें Black Death as well as Peasants Revolt ये आपके दोनों बहुत important है. White Tyler Peasants Revolt से associated है. So what are you able to see? आपका जो Black Death आ रहा है, I'll change the color of the pen. Right, आपका जो black death आ रहा है, what are you able to see? What are you able to look at? Black death is from 1348 to 51, right, which resulted in the death of 1/3 of the population. And peasants revolt was also a key moment altogether. ये dates आपको याद रखनी पड़ेगी. Bubonic plague की date, your peasants revolt की date. हम लोग एक crash course भी करेंगे wherein we'll be looking at medieval literature and the most important pointers associated with medieval literature. तो उसके अंदर लोलार्ड ही हो गए, जैसे आपके लोलार्ड्स हो गए, राइट? सो all of this you need to remember कि कैसे Wycliffe is also one of the most important contemporaries of Chaucer. इनका Bible का translation that also becomes important, so you'll have to keep that in mind. What was the War of Roses, right? What was the War of Roses that we're talking about? What was the War of Roses, everyone? Please keep yourself covered and protected and take inhalers. Drink and have something warm. What was the War of Roses? Yes, between the two groups. Who were the two groups that were fighting? एक ना आप एक पेज ही बनाया लिया कीजिए हमेशा टू टॉक अबाउट द मोस्ट इम्पोर्टेंट हिस्टोरिकल इवेंट्स. जो हिस्टोरिकल इवेंट्स चल रहे हैं उनके बारे में आपका पेज होना चाहिए. Very good, very good, very good, very good. So again, when we are talking about the War of Roses, what are you able to see? War of Roses आपका York and Lancaster के बीच में हो रहा है. York is white, represented by white rose, and Lancaster by red rose, right? So it was Richard, Duke of York versus Henry the Sixth that we're talking about. These are the time coordinates of the War of Roses. So please remember that War of Roses आपका एक important historic event है. तो आपका ब्लैक डेथ हो गया, राइट? आपका पेजेंट्स रिवॉल्ट हो गया, आपका वॉर ऑफ रोजेस जो चल रहा था. ये क्वेश्चन आपका 2-3 बार आ चुका है दैट हु वर द थ्री मोनार्क्स अंडर व्हिच चॉसर वाज राइटिंग. तो हिस्टोरिकल पॉलिटिकल इवेंट्स को आपको पता होना चाहिए, एंड दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच इज एक्चुअली वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ओके, व्हाट वाज अलिटरेटिव रिवाइवल एंड व्हाट इज सेकंड शेपर्ड्स प्ले? अलिटरेटिव रिवाइवल क्या है? ये जैसे इंग्लिश लिटरेचर 101 के अंदर मैं आपको जो ये भेजने वाली हूं उसमें आपका मिस्ट्री मोरालिटी प्लेस बहुत अच्छी तरह से एक्सप्लेन कर रखा है. I'll be sending one of these quotations also. So इसमें बहुत ही properly explain कर रखा है कि कैसे आपका emergence आ रहा है, how is it, it's going to be good for your overall revision as well. So I'll send this across to all of you. चलिए जल्दी से बताइए, what was the alliterative revival and what is the second shepherd's play? What is the second shepherd's play? What is the second shepherd's play? What was the alliterative revival and what is the second shepherd's play? ओके सो अलिटरेटिव रिवाइवल एक फॉर्म ऑफ राइटिंग है जिसको दोबारा से बूस्ट किया जाता है, राइट? दैट इज व्हाट यू आर लार्जली एबल टू सी. सो अलिटरेटिव रिवाइवल, जब अलिटरेटिव पोएम्स आपकी दोबारा से आ रही थी, राइट? एंड दिस वाज एक्चुअली ट्राइंग टू प्रेजेंट दैट वी आर हैविंग आवर ओन यूनिक स्टाइल ऑफ राइटिंग, दैट इज इंग्लिश, in comparison to the French poetic style of writing, right? So alliterative revival एक तरह से assert करना चाह रहा था an English style of writing. It was trying to assert an English style of writing, and therefore you were reclaiming a particular form altogether. And Second Shepherd's Play, this is a mystery play. So जब आप ये concept करते हो development of drama, उसके अंदर mystery, morality, interludes, ये आपका even Pearson's की outline के अंदर, you know, how they are beautifully given. ये आज मैं दोबारा से आपको रिवाइज भी करवाने वाली हूँ. सो ये वाला पार्ट आपकी उसमें हम लोगों ने डाल ही रखा है. when you know they're talking about, when they're discussing about development of drama overall, they're beautifully explaining a couple of pointers in the development of drama. ठीक है, तो ये चीज आपको थोड़ी बहुत ध्यान में रखनी पड़ेगी. You will have to you know, keep this in mind, that how you're able to see कि development हो रहा है, and how mystery plays like the Second Shepherd's Play is actually coming in, right? So yeah, this is like, you know, if in case you have the book on page 20, they've clearly written that the first English plays told religious stories and were performed in or near the churches. Many events of religious history were suitable subjects for drama. These included miracle and mystery plays. One of the important mystery plays that you have is Second Shepherd's Play. It's categorically mentioned over there, ठीक है? और excerpt भी दे रखे हैं Second Shepherd's Play से. So this is the reason, you know, as a many times हम लोगों को लगता है विलियम जे लॉन्ग, बट ऐसी पतली इंपॉर्टेंट अच्छी अच्छी बुक्स भी आपके फंडास को बहुत अच्छी तरह से क्लियर कर देती हैं. Okay, what are the two sections? What are the two sections of Langland's Pius the Plowman, and how does it start? How is it starting? Yes, Prasanjit, absolutely right. The townly place that we're talking about. So, what are the two sections of Langland's Pius the Plowman, and how does it start? ये start कैसे होता है? Remember, आपकी एक hills है, और ये question आपसे पूछा भी गया है कि vision कौन से hills पे आ रहा है? जो vision उसको आ रहा है वो कौन से hills पे आ रहा है? That is also very important. So, what are the two sections that you are able to see? It's divided into two sections. What are the two sections that we are all able to look at? It's having three texts. That's right, A, B, C. But there are two parts to it. What are the two parts? Very good, Prasanjit. Malvern Hills, बिल्कुल सही आपने दिया है. Very nice. Very good. Very good. Very nice. I'm still waiting for it. गोविंद जी अपना ही चल रहा है. मैंने पूछा नहीं कि किसने लिखा है, but ठीक है. That's good. That's good. Okay, now here you have to remember that there are two sections. There are two sections that you are having. So Visio is one section that is there, right? Visio and Vita is the other section. There are two sections that you're able to see, and this I think Prasanjit had got it right, right? Where is it? Where is it? I think Yeah, Prasanjit Majhi had got this right. The Malvern Hills, right? So Malvern Hills पे उनको ये जो dream vision आती है, that is at the Malvern Hills, right? So Pius the Plowman by William Langland. Langland was the only Chaucerian contemporary who was very sensitive to rebellion, who was very rebels, who was very sensitive to the peasants also. Gower भी जो था ना, he was not very sensitive towards the rebels overall. उसको भी stability चाहिए थी. Okay, so that is what you're largely able to see. So please remember that Pius the Plowman, of course, there are three texts, that's fine. But there are two sections, Visio and Vita, and Malvern Hills पे ये पूरा का पूरा जो आपका dream vision चल रहा है. Which contemporary of Chaucer was hostile towards rebels? मैंने indirectly अभी answer दे दिया है. मैंने indirectly अभी answer दे दिया है. Of course, yeah, that is the reason. So whenever we are studying थोड़ी जो parts रह जाते हैं, that's exactly what we're trying to cover and make sure that, you know, all of you are well prepared जब हम revision वाले topics revise करते हैं, right? Okay, what is the correct answer here, everybody? What becomes the correct answer here? जल्दी से बताइए. Sorry. Yes, Gower is the right answer. Excellent. Supratim has got it right. Govindji Royals Golu Singh has got it right. Wow, क्या बात है. ठीक है. So you know, when we are talking about moral Gower, John Gower was a person who was absolutely against. और उनके तीन, remember the three languages that he wrote in? We talked about French, Latin, and English, right? Those were the three periods that you were able to look at. जिसमें आपका Vox Clementis, Speculum Meditatus, and of course, you know, Confessio Mantis आ रहा है. Confessio Mantis English phase में आ जाता है. So all of these, you will have to keep that in mind, that, you know, John Gower was somebody who was not, he was a contemporary of Geoffrey Chaucer. He He was the person to whom Chaucer dedicated Troilus and Cressida's moral gower, right? Moral gower ke form mein. And the three major works, what are the three major works of John Gower, who was against rebels? He was against rebels, he was against any kind of peasants revolt, peasantry altogether. So it was only Langland who was predominantly trying to favor, the so-called lower classes that you were able to look at. What is the correct answer over here? What are the three major works? ये भी अभी अभी हम लोगों ने बता दिया है. What are the three major works of Gawa? जब भी आप रॉटलिच पढ़ते हो या कोई भी आप बुक पढ़ रहे हो हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लैंग्वेज या लिटरेचर के ऊपर, कीप ऑन क्विजिंग योरसेल्फ, कीप ऑन पुटिंग योर नोट्स ऑल टुगेदर. हर एक पैराग्राफ के बाद आप मेंशन कीजिए वो पैराग्राफ में क्या बोल रहे हैं. कीप ऑन क्विजिंग योरसेल्फ, दैट्स एक्चुअली गोइंग टू बी वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. दैट इज ट्रू, दैट इज ट्रू, दैट इज ट्रू. सो व्हाट आर द थ्री पार्ट्स दैट यू आर एबल टू लुक एट? यू आर एबल टू सी के फ्रेंच पीरियड में स्पेकुलम मेंडिटेंटिस आ रहा है, ओके, एंड लैटिन पीरियड में वॉक्स क्लेमेंटिस आ रहा है. ये क्वेश्चन भी आ चुका है कि कौन से पीरियड में क्या आ रहा है, so please remember that. And Confessio Mantis, Confessions of a Lover, that is coming in the English period. So this is for John Gower. These are the three important contemporaries, right? Wycliffe, Gower, as well as your Langland, who are the contemporaries of Geoffrey Chaucer that you'll have to keep in mind. तो इसको अच्छी तरह से एक बार रिवाइज कर लीजिएगा. अच्छा, who are the Macars? Who are the Macars? Who are the Macars? अगर आपने थोड़ा सा भी चौसर को कवर किया होता, क्योंकि कल हम लोग थोड़ा सा ब्रीफली टॉक कर रहे थे अबाउट इट, स्पेशली अगर आपने रॉटलिच पढ़ी होती, तो you will be able to answer this question. Who are the Macars? Who are the Macars that we're talking about? Who are the Macars that we're talking about? And this is a very important phrase that is being used. ये जो आपका phrase है ये बहुत ही important use किया जा रहा है. किसके लिए use किया जा रहा है? आपके किसके लिए use किया जा रहा है? This is being used for स्कॉटिश चौसेरियंस. ठीक है, ये किसके लिए यूज किया जा रहा है? नो वरीज, नो वरीज. ये आपका स्कॉटिश चौसेरियंस के लिए यूज किया जा रहा है. 15th century was the golden period in Scottish literature. Scottish literature का golden period था. रादर डनबर जो यहाँ पर आ रहे हैं, विलियम डनबर जो यहाँ पर आ रहे हैं, काफी सारे 19th and 20th century Scottish writers उनसे इंस्पायर होके, उनके elaborate style, heroic style से इंस्पायर हो रहे हैं. So when we are talking about the Macars, when we are looking at the Macars, what are you actually able to see? When we talk about the Macars overall, these are the Scottish Chaucerians, right? Coming from the northern Scotland, they're also called Macars overall. Or 15th century was a golden period of Scottish poetry. एक चीज और रॉटलिच की अच्छी क्या है कि वो आयरिश स्कॉटिश दोनों हिस्ट्री आपको इंग्लिश हिस्ट्री के डेवलपमेंट के साथ बताते हैं. So that is another thing that you're largely able to see. James the First is also Scottish Chaucerian. King's Squire, King's Book, Robert Henryson, William Dunbar, Gavin Douglas, ये सारे के सारे. Gavin Douglas आपका first complete translation of the Aeneid लेके आ रहे हैं. That is also important. Moral Phoebus of Aesop's, Henryson लेके आ रहे हैं. So all of this, so this is what I say, you should make cheat sheets. Every page, तो जब आप notes भी लिख रहे होते हैं, एक box बना लीजिए like a slide कि ये slide में जाएगा या ये important चीजें आपको याद रखनी है. But that really enables you to get a better hand overall. Okay, so please remember that. All right, now before we get started with the topic of discussion, मैं जल्दी से आपको again, I will quickly walk you through one quick detail because I think मैंने 2-3 बार आप लोगों को बताया है, but still there was a little bit of an issue. So I will just 1 second. Why is this going? I'll just quickly show you. I think maybe it's not coming. Okay, anyway, it's not coming, but I'll share the course details also with all of you. इस हफ्ते वैसे भी हम लोग जो एक आपका यूरोपियन लिटरेचर का मॉड्यूल है वो खत्म कर चुके हैं. So technically the fresh batch is also starting. So please make a note of that कि आपका जो फाउंडेशन बैच की डिटेल्स है, again I'm saying because ये बहुत अभी क्या हो रहा था कि आपका because these were few initial days, so आपका 8:30 PM का classes से related जो questions है, you please make sure that they are getting sorted. Now coming continuing from where we left yesterday, कल हम लोगों ने क्या क्या कवर किया था. था. I'll just hide myself so that you'll be able to see this entire thing quickly. कल हम लोगों ने अभी तक क्या क्या देखा है. We've spoken about the development of English language. हम लोगों ने Romans का collapse, Pax Romana का collapse, the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons. We also discussed, remember, we had spoken about the fact that how we are not following Annals history. क्या कहता है? Anglo-Saxon, Anglo-Norman है, but you can also take it as a complete period of your early or old English period before the start of the Renaissance altogether. Well, हम लोगों ने writers like Geoffrey of Monmouth, writers like remember Steinwolf, the person who signed his works, okay, to Cadmean, who's considered to be an Anglo-Saxon, Milton, or to Venerable Bede, who's considered to be the father of English learning altogether. ये सारे के सारे works coming of Christianity we looked at. We were also looking at how Geoffrey of Monmouth is writing Historia Regum Britannia. We looked at Mallory, Lee Mortardy Arthur. तो ये सारे के सारे works हम लोगों ने कल cover किए थे. आज वहीं से ही वी आर गोइंग टू बी आज वहीं से ही वी आर गोइंग टू कंटिन्यू. सो आपके दो इंपॉर्टेंट जो वर्क्स हैं, पर्ल एंड पेशेंस. कल जो मैंने आपको वैसे भी पीडीएफ भी भेजा था, अगर वो भी आपने रिवाइज किया होगा तो आपको पता चल जाएगा. पर्ल एंड पेशेंस ये एलिटरेटिव पोएम्स हैं. एलिटरेटिव रिवाइवल हो रहा था. रिमेंबर व्हाई? बिकॉज यू वांटेड टू गिव कंपटीशन टू फ्रेंच पोएटिक स्टाइल्स. बिकॉज यू वांटेड टू गिव कंपटीशन टू फ्रेंच पोएटिक स्टाइल्स ऑफ राइटिंग. ठीक है. So Pearl was actually the name of the poet's daughter who died at 2, but the poet was very happy to see, at least satisfied to see her in the heaven. Patience किसकी story है? Patience is the story of Jonah, who was thrown into the sea and swallowed by this immense creature of the seas, right? And eventually, a lot of times the suffering also that we have is something that becomes, what is actually told to us, or what is in our fate, which is told to us by God altogether. So this is what they're trying to say. So again, religion का attribute, alliterative words का attribute, pearl and patience के अंदर आ जाता है. ठीक है. So this is something that you should be able to keep in mind. Now, when we are talking about anchoresses, ठीक है, anchoresses कौन थी? Anchoresses आपकी एक तरह से nuns आप बोल सकते हैं, to understand it a little better. Women who were, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Women who were on the path of religious, cleansing. Women who were really moving towards making sure that I'll be keeping today's class a little brief only, okay? Right. So when we are talking about anchor and revel, when we are looking at anchor and revel, what are you able to see? ये एक बहुत ही important piece of work है जो Middle English prose से associated है. ये religious life से associated है. And it's like a kind of a guide book. ये क्या है एक तरह का? It is like a kind of a guide book. It's trying to tell you कि कैसे anchoresses को रहना चाहिए, कैसे उनको dress करना चाहिए, उनको कैसे करना चाहिए. Remember हमारी problem क्या है? Monk से, चौसर के Canterbury Tale के monk से या फ्रायर से हमारी क्या प्रॉब्लम है? that they are not behaving like religious people, right? They're not behaving like religious people at all. They're not behaving in a manner which is appropriate of religious conduct altogether. So this is what you're able to largely see. Sorry. This is what you're largely able to see, that works like Anchor and Revel, works like Anchor and Revel, they are like guidebooks altogether. Thank you so much, Neha. That's very sweet of you. So please quickly do remember, do keep that in mind कि Anchor and Revel भी आपका एक important work हो जाता है. Can anyone tell me who has written this work called Form of Perfect Living? तो इस टाइम पे आप ये भी देख पाते हो कि गाइड बुक्स which are trying to tell you कि कैसे आपको रहना चाहिए, क्या आपको करना चाहिए, that is also becoming important. So who has written the Form of Perfect Living? Who's the writer who's written the Form of Perfect Living? Can anyone quickly tell me who's written the Form of Perfect Living? The Form of Perfect Living. ये किसने लिखा है? Who has written this work called the Form of Perfect Living? The Form of Perfect Living. Who's written this particular work? The Form of Perfect Living. Okay. Anybody wants to give it a try? So Form of Perfect Living is a work by Richard Raleigh. Richard Raleigh has written this, ठीक है? So again, इस तरह के prose narratives like Anchored Revel or Form of Perfect Living, they are trying to tell you that how an idealistic way of living was. Like for instance, if you talk about students, हमारे Prime Minister ने भी लिखा है, right? Prime Minister has also written a book to tell students that how can you be an ideal student, how exams are not a war, but they are predominantly there to just test your knowledge or whatever you've prepared. So it's more supposed to be taken like a game. So again, इस तरह की writings were becoming very popular. You were able to see the rise in popularity of such kind of writing. So Richard Raleigh is writing the Form of Perfect Living, right? Richard Raleigh is writing the Form of Perfect Living. Now Wycliffe, any session when we are talking about the development of English literature, especially अगर आप medieval period की बात कर रहे हैं, so no class is actually complete without the topic or mention of Wycliffe. ठीक है, Wycliffe of course is making sure that जो religion है that is accessible to everybody. He's getting these translations of the Holy Bible because he's saying for us to interact with God, it's important to have the word of God in our language. पहले क्या था, Bible was only available in English, in Latin, so it had to be available in common person's language for them to be able to access the Bible and the teachings, and because not everybody could have afforded the priest. So this is what we are able to see. This is what we are able to look at when we talk about Wycliffe overall. ठीक है, तो ये चीज आपको थोड़ी बहुत ध्यान में रखनी पड़ेगी that how Wycliffe is attacking, how Wycliffe is trying to go against the church, trying to produce a piece of writing which is accessible for everybody. Everybody can read and understand it. ठीक है, now despite the fact that he had radical views, but Wycliffe did not, he was not burnt at stake, right? But still इनके साथ कुछ अच्छा नहीं हुआ था खास, because इनकी bones को unearth कर दिया गया था, and this was like a great very sad event overall. That is what you were able to see, right? Yes, yes, Fatma. Thanks so much for asking. I actually said at the beginning I'm a little under the weather, so not keeping too well. But thanks so much. Yes, Monica, absolutely right. Wycliffe is a morning star of Reformation, very good, and morning star of Renaissance is Chaucer, very good. So Wycliffe की जो bones थी उनको so this just shows the kind of society that was. They were absolutely hostile to any sort of view that was contrarian altogether. But he was of course not burnt alive. But इनकी जब when he was buried, उसके बाद इनकी बोन्स को निकाल दिया गया था, एंड देन दे वर सेंट अप टू द स्ट्रीम. वहां से ये फेमस लाइंस भी आई है, दे एवॉन टू द सेवन runs the Severn to the sea, Wycliffe's dust shall spread abroad wide as the waters be, right? So they were trying to just talk about it that even though they have thrown Wycliffe away, but excuse me, he would just continue, he would just be there. So that is what you're largely able to see, that he would just continue overall. That is what that was the stature of Wycliffe. Okay, now isi time par you are also able to see the development of drama. This is what we were talking about, right? When we talk about second shepherd's play, which is a mystery play altogether. इसको ऐसे भी see हर एक topic जो अभी हम देख रहे हैं, this is a topic which has to be elaborated, but we are just walking you through, we are just trying to tell you that what are certain things that you definitely have to keep in mind when you're tracking the history of English language and literature. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Yeah, Kanchana, I will be. Thanks so much. Now, religious plays were of course there at the beginning. You were able to see कि आपके religious plays आ रहे हैं. Religious plays were actually becoming very important. आपके miracle plays, mystery plays, morality plays, right? That is what you were able to see based on the place of the play. Chester Cycle, Coventry, York, Wakefield, right? So again, development of plays actually had religious so-called ancestry that you were able to see. So आपका जो entertainment drama है, आपका जो entertainment drama है, that is actually evolving from religious drama. आपका जो entertainment drama है, that is evolving from your so sweet of you, Kanchan, that's very sweet of you. That's actually evolving from your religious drama. So please keep that also in mind. Now, miracle plays हो गए. So miracle plays, we're trying to tell you miracles that are happening in the lives of saints altogether. Mysteries we're trying to explore, incidents from the Bible, right? तो ये plays जो थे, इनका main subject क्या था? इनका main subjects, remember कल हम लोगों ने क्या discuss किया था? Yesterday we had talked about, can all of you tell me in the comment section quickly to just see how many of you actually revised it? We said that there was this one important work which is actually trying to tell you the spiritual, spiritual creation also. So it's the spiritual journey also that is getting created. There was this one person. What is the name of that person who's writing it, and what is the work's name? कल ही हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया है, राइट? कल ही हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया है, तो जल्दी से बताइए मुझे कमेंट सेक्शन में. आई एम वेटिंग फॉर इट. सो व्हाट आर द मेन सब्जेक्ट्स? व्हाट आर द मेन सब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ मिरेकल प्लेस? डिसोबीडियंस ऑफ एडम एंड ईव, नोआ एंड द ग्रेट फ्लड, एब्राहम एंड आइजैक, इवेंट्स इन द लाइफ ऑफ क्राइस्ट, राइट? तो ये सारी की सारी चीज, एंड प्लीज रिमेंबर, एक्टेड ऑन स्टेज ऑन व्हील्स. यू वर एबल टू टेक इट, इट वाज लाइक अ पैजेंट. तो ये एक जगह से दूसरी जगह तक यू वर एक्चुअली गोइंग, यू वर टेकिंग देम अलोंग. जब हम डेवलपमेंट ऑफ ड्रामा को in detail देखेंगे, we'll talk about it. No, Devashish, no, we're not talked about Milton's Paradise Lost. कल ही हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया. That means nobody is going through their notes. This is your homework question now. Please remember, इसके साथ मैं आपको 2-3 और homework questions देती हूँ. Please do not do this because you know if you're not revising, और कल हम लोगों ने बहुत basic topics किए थे. We had talked about no. It's not Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress. It's not Paradise Lost. We yesterday only we did this work. We said that this work आप लोगों ने slides भी go through नहीं की है, which is very sad and unfortunate. Okay, so please remember that. Thank you so much, Kanchan. That's very sweet of you. Excellent. Thank you so much, Tithi. Tithi is the only person. I'm so proud of her. Tithi is the only person who's revising, which is very, which is good also, but very sad. Baki sab log kya kar rahe hain? Are they all sleeping? If Tithi can answer it correctly, Tithi Das, excellent bache. You really deserve a shout out over here. Everybody, आप लोगों ने नहीं किया है. And please admit that you're not revising. See, these things look simple, but till the time you will not put in that effort to revise it, it's actually surely a waste of energy for you also. There's no point just sitting over there. Supratim good, Monica good. Tithi was the first person to talk about cursor mundi. कल ही हम लोगों ने करा है. मैंने आपको बोला भी था कि नेट में कर्सर मुंडी आजकल मतलब आपका पूछा जाता है, या आपके पीएचडी एंट्रेंसेस में भी कर्सर मुंडी आता है. एंड हम लोग तब ये भी कह रहे थे कि इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ फिक्शनल हिस्टोरिकल अकाउंट, लेकिन स्पिरिचुअल एस्पेक्ट को भी ये ट्रेस कर रहा है. हम लोगों ने रिवाइज ही नहीं किया है. बाय. This shouldn't be the case at all. No worries, Devashish. No. So apology will only come when you study. That is the only form of apology. Okay. So please be a little more careful. इसी तरह से every man became a morality play, right? Every man was. I'll come this side so that you'll be able to see it better. So every man was a morality play that all of us were able to see, right? Every man became the morality play. Moralities आपकी बहुत ज़्यादा popular हो गई थी, right? Every man is of course coming in. बेसिकली मोरालिटीज personification कर रही हैं of vices and virtues all together. Every man की story, every man has to go and face death, right? And everybody has lost him, is not ready to accompany him except for good deeds. Good deeds says, every man I'll go with thee and be thy guide, in the most need to be by thy side. ठीक है. बाकी सब लोग मना कर देते हैं when every man is summoned by death, but good deeds are the only ones who are actually going with him. Right? That is a commentary. Okay, so please keep that in mind. All right, please remember that. Great, Tithi, I'm really glad, but please keep on revising, everyone. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So here you will have to remember. Here you will have to keep it in mind that how every man is coming. You will have to keep in mind that इस तरह के आपके mystery plays, morality plays, interludes. Interludes are also very important, right? For instance, John Haywood is writing interludes. Now, what are these interludes? Interludes are coming in between the plays. They are also one of the types of drama that you are able to look at. John Haywood का 4 Ps is very famous interlude. इसका date भी याद रखिएगा. And he's also written, ये question भी आजकल आपके एग्जाम में आता है. He's also written the play of the weather, Jupiter, king of gods. Remember अभी class में when we were looking at Roman classical literature, and classroom students, I hope आप बिल्कुल तैयार होंगे. Tuesday आपका sectional test है. I hope you're all preparing, right? I hope you're all preparing your German writers. I hope you're all preparing your Russian writers. Syllabus पूरा का पूरा कर लीजिएगा. German writers, Russian writers, आपका sectional test है. उसमें कम से कम आपका टारगेट होना चाहिए that you should get 80% right answers. ठीक है, ये आपका टारगेट होना चाहिए क्लासरूम स्टूडेंट्स. आप लोग कल के न्यू ईयर्स थोड़ा मना मनु के प्लीज स्टार्ट प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर द सेक्शनल टेस्ट. ओके. All right, so please remember, king of gods, Jupiter. We talked about, Zeus, Jupiter, etc. Zeus आपका Greek में होता है. We had even talked about the Roman gods. I hope you've revised that lecture. नहीं किया है तो सबसे पहले तो क्लासरूम स्टूडेंट सारे के सारे lectures आप एक बार अच्छी तरह से रिवाइज कर लीजिएगा. आपका 50% of the paper lectures के अंदर से ही है, 50% आपका topic wise है. So please review that. Very good, Monica. He would also wrote interludes and he was alive during the time of Shakespeare. अब देखिए उसके बाद ना development of ये आपका an outline. So ये जो book है आपकी an outline of English literature, इसके अंदर then you are moving on to your Elizabethan poetry and prose and Elizabethan drama also. बहुत ही briefly रखेंगे क्योंकि Elizabethan age को separately भी, जैसे मैंने आपको कहा अभी सिर्फ हम outline दे रहे हैं. सारे के सारे topics in detail भी आपके होंगे, so you don't have to worry at all about it. So sorry. Right? So please keep a note of that. Now, when we are looking at Elizabethan poetry and prose, we are able to see that Queen Elizabeth, the last Tudor monarch, इनके बाद Tudor dynasty चली जाती है. She is the last Tudor monarch because she is the virgin monarch. Therefore, Stuart dynasty comes in. James the Sixth of Scotland becomes James the First of England, and that is a very tumultuous period. यहीं पे आपका millenary petition आ रहा है, जो मैं अभी आपको बताने वाली हूँ, जो मैंने आपको starting of the class में बोला था, ठीक है? Now, when Queen Elizabeth is coming, she's of course ruling, and you are able to see that by 1590s, 1579 में, because theatre का activity start हो गया है, so this period is actually comparable to a golden period that you're largely able to see. अच्छा, अब ये मैं आपको बता रही थी कि Wyatt and Surrey का बहुत important role है in the development of poetry. Wyatt and Surrey actually play a very critical role in the development of poetry. आप ये याद रख सकते हैं कि दोनों sonnets लिख रहे हैं, ठीक है, बट वायर्ड, ठीक है, वायर्ड वायर्ड आप ऐसे इसको याद रख सकते हैं. सो वायर्ड इज एक्चुअली एसोसिएटेड विद सोनेट. मे बी आप इसको ऐसे WSO ऐसा कुछ याद रख सकते हैं. सो विलियम शेक्सपियर, राइट, इज देयर. सो वायर्ड इज द वन हु इज राइटिंग, हु इज एसोसिएटेड, ही इज द फर्स्ट पर्सन टू गेट सोनेट. whereas Surrey is a very important Swiss bank. Surrey, right, Swiss bank, Surrey, ऐसे आप याद रख सकते हैं. यू कैन क्रिएट योर ओन ट्रिक्स टू रिमेंबर दैट, क्योंकि अक्सर हम कंफ्यूज हो जाते हैं, हमें लगता है वायर्ड ब्लैंक वर्स लेके आ रहा है. नो, Surrey, राइट. So Henry Howard, Earl of Surrey, he's getting the blank verse, and Wyatt is the one who's associated with getting sonnet. दोनों के दोनों of course एक important role play करते हैं. Early Elizabethan poetry से पहले it's actually John Skelton, Wyatt and Surrey. ये तीन लोग बहुत important role play करते हैं before the blossoming and blooming of your Elizabethan poetry. Skeltonic की verses भी आपके आते हैं. When we are talking about Philip Sparrow का जो question skeleton उससे आता है, John Skelton, Skeltonic verses जो आपके आ जाते हैं, those questions are also very important, so you'll have to be mindful of that. Okay. Now, when we are talking about Wyatt, right, when we are looking at Wyatt, why is Wyatt so important? Wyatt is very important because he is of course trying to, like we said, that the entire sonnet form जो आपका अच्छी तरह से आ रहा है, Italian sonnet form, 14 lines, 8 lines followed by 6 lines altogether. Whereas Shakespearean sonnet में क्या हो जाता है? Shakespearean sonnet is a little different. Shakespearean sonnet is actually using your quatrains. So there are 3 quatrains that are that are there, and then of course you are having a concluding 2-line couplet which is coming in. So Shakespearean sonnet, English sonnet, Petrarchan sonnet, ये वैसे forms of poetry के अंदर हम लोग करने वाले हैं. We will be talking about that also altogether. Okay, there's a very interesting question नेहा सिंह ने पूछा है, या क्या पूछ रहे हैं? Now please remember, आपका जो form of sonnet है, it's actually associated with Giacomo di Lintini. Lintini is a person who's associated with the starting of sonnet, lekin Petrarch is perfecting it, right? Dante is also in a way utilizing the sonnet form, but what are you able to see? It's actually Lintini, Giacomo di Lintini. हम लोग poetry की class में करते भी हैं. This is what we talk about as well. Okay, so please remember, Surrey is again important. Surrey, like I said, that he is the one who got blank verse. Milton use कर रहे हैं, Shakespeare use कर रहे हैं, Marlowe use कर रहे हैं. Marlowe's mighty lines, as you are able to see, it's iambic pentameter mostly that is used in blank verse, right? जो meter form use हो रहा है वो आपका iambic pentameter use हो रहा है. but otherwise ये हम लोग करेंगे. पूरी की पूरी क्लास आपकी rhetoric and prosody के ऊपर है, ठीक है. आपकी एक पूरी की पूरी क्लास रेटरिक एंड प्रोसिडी के ऊपर होगी, एंड क्लासरूम में तो वैसे भी हम लोगों ने 3 मॉड्यूल्स इसके निकाले हुए हैं. So this will be covered properly. Okay. Now please remember that this Elizabethan society really believed it was not important. You're moving now from the medieval times. Medieval times अगर आप strong थे तो आपको पावरफुल समझा जाता था. एलिजाबेथियन सोसाइटी में ऐसा नहीं होता है. एलिजाबेथियन सोसाइटी में यू हैव टू बी वेल रेड. कैस्टेलोनी भी बताते हैं. सो कैस्टेलोनी इज ऑल्सो ट्राइंग टू टेल यू अबाउट द कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ अ जेंटलमैन. वहीं से क्वेश्चन आता है, आपका टर्म आता है स्प्रेट्सतूरा. स्प्रेट्सतूरा का क्या मतलब होता है? नॉनशलांस, एफर्टलेसली मतलब मैं एफर्ट डाल के अगर कोई चीज को प्रोड्यूस कर रही हूँ, दैट इज नॉट इंटेलेक्चुअल कैपेबिलिटी. लेकिन अगर it's coming naturally, wisdom is coming naturally to you, that really is impeccable, right? So education of a gentleman became very important. So it's literally going back to the classical times जहाँ पर आपकी education had a charm, education was considered to be important altogether. That is what you're able to see. ठीक है. टोटल का songs and sonnets ये भी थोड़ी सी चीजें आपको ध्यान में रखनी पड़ेगी, that courtly, how you were able to see. By the way, Dracton is also there, sonneteers, Elizabethan poetry, separate unity है आपका totally. इसको आप अच्छी तरह से भी एनालाइज कर सकते हैं. यहाँ पर आपका Dracton is coming. Since there's no help, come let us kiss and part. Nay, I have done, you get no more of me, and I'm glad, ye glad, with all my heart, that thus so cleanly I myself can free. Right? So again, what are these? These are Dracton's lines that you're able to see. Again, the courtly love tradition was there. यहाँ पर आप प्लीज याद रखिएगा, आपका courtly love tradition आ रहा है. Courtly love tradition is elevated tradition where mostly there is unrequited love, unrequited, unfulfilled love. There is unrequited love, there is unfulfilled love. That is what you're largely able to see. ठीक है, तो ये आप याद रखिएगा. शेक्सपियर के sonnets again, another elephant in the room, a very controversial topic overall. ये sonnets आपके बहुत ज़्यादा important हो जाते हैं. They were of course printed in 1609. That is what you were largely able to see, that they were coming back in 1609. Okay, and there's a lot of controversy कि किसको dedicated है या किसको addressed है basically. ठीक है, so that is of course there. But Shakespearean sonnets are also a very important part of Elizabethan poetry. इनको तो आप separately analyze कीजिएगा. Rather, जैसे ये आपका ये जो Gwendolyn Roberts के outline of English literature है, I'll read these lines. I want to actually include it. I don't know why I've not included it. Anyway, I'll just quickly. Then I was not keeping too well, but anyway, I'll quickly just share. I'll quickly just share one of these lines with you. It's very beautifully captured. It's very beautifully capturing the lines that Shakespeare is writing. ठीक है? तो जैसे ये Shakespeare का है ना, so Shakespeare, that is what there were a lot of controversy कि किसको addressed है, कि कौन mentioned है. Look at these lines. Who will believe my verse in time to come, if it were filled with your most high deserts? Though yet heaven knows it is but as a tomb, which hides your life and shows not half your parts. If I could write the beauty of your eyes, and in fresh numbers number all your graces, the age to come would say this poet lies. Right? He's saying, if I have to honestly, put across whatever you are symbolic of, people say I'm lying. That's the kind of elevation, like, he's doing. Such heavenly touches never touched earthly faces. So should my papers, yellowed with their age, be scorned like old men of less truth than tongue, and your truth rights to be termed a poet's rage, and stretchered meter of an antique song. But where some child of yours alive that time, you should live twice in it, in my rhyme. Right? So once you've led your own life, now you should lead the life with me. So, Shakespeare के जो sonnets हैं, they're very beautifully written overall. You're largely able to see the beauty of those lines and the meter that is getting produced overall. So, that also becomes like a very interesting point that you're largely able to see. ठीक है? तो यही चीज मैं आपको बता रही थी कि इसके अंदर how beautifully the lines are written. This is what you're largely able to see in the lines also that were coming in. Okay, all right. Now moving on, please remember from the Elizabethan age, you're actually moving on. I'll just hide myself for a minute so that you'll be able to see that. From the Elizabethan, एक बार जल्दी से explain कर देती हूँ. From the Elizabethan age, you're actually moving on to an age of reason and rationality. Elizabethan age फिर भी इस तरह की age थी, जैसे शेक्सपियर यहाँ पर लिख रहे हैं, right? This is what he's writing, that if I could write the beauty of your eyes, and in fresh numbers number all your graces, the age to come would say this poet lies, right? The age to come will say that this poet lies. Now when you are seeing these kind of lines, right? When you are seeing these kind of lines, it's elevated, it's still far-fetched, it's something which is not realistic, right? It's something which is not realistic at all. That is what you're largely able to see, okay? But now you're moving to the age of reason. Now you're moving to the age of reason. I'll hide myself so that you can see this a little bit quickly. Okay, what are you moving at? You're actually moving at the age of reason overall. So please keep that in mind. Please remember that whenever we are talking about the transition, ये transition भी आपके लिए काफी ज़्यादा important हो जाती है, right? This transition is also something that you're largely able to see that is resulting, and it's changing all the more. Ben Jonson, of course, is coming. Just like we said that, just like we'd spoken about. Just one second. So sorry. Right. I'm just blowing my nose altogether. So what are you able to see when you're looking at? I'm so sorry. Right. What are you able to see when we are talking about Ben Johnson? Now, whenever you're looking at Ben Johnson, there are a couple of things that you'll have to really keep in mind. That Ben Johnson, just like Sign Wolf, कल हम लोगों ने cover किया था. Remember we talked about Sign Wolf. What were we talking about? We were discussing that Sign Wolf was signing his works, right? He was the first person to assert his authorship altogether. The same is happening with Ben Johnson. He's also introducing the comedy of humors. Ben Johnson क्या introduce कर रहे हैं? He's also introducing the comedy of humors for all of us. And all of these works, Every Man in His Humor, so इनकी early comedies हैं. He is also another important person who needs to be covered directly. Early comedies इनकी आ जाती हैं, mature comedies आ जाती हैं, masks आ जाते हैं. Sejanus and Catiline, these are the two tragedies that he's writing, right? Sejanus and Catiline, Sejanus and Catiline are the two tragedies that you're able to see, right? These are the two tragedies that Ben Jonson has actually written. So these are the two tragedies that you're able to see. Okay, so these become the two tragedies that you're able to look at. Oh my god, what is this is called a Freudian, this thing I was looking at, right? So these are the two tragedies that are actually coming across. So this is what you'll have to be well aware about. But this is very important because this is the starting point. Okay, this is the starting point of Jacobean age. ये क्या हो जाता है? And this becomes the starting point of your Jacobean period altogether, where you're transitioning, and यहाँ से आप tumultuous time period start हो जाता है, right? From here you're able to see the start of the very tumultuous period that comes in. Very good, Devashish, right? So here, when we are moving on, what are we able to see? We're able to see that Elizabeth is the last Tudor monarch, right? Queen Elizabeth becomes the last Tudor monarch altogether. She is the one who's leading the entire house overall. So that is another point that you're able to look at. अच्छा, अब Elizabeth के बाद जो आपका peaceful time period था, जैसे उससे पहले आपका War of Roses हो रहा है, then Henry the 7th, 8th, they are coming in, right? And the Tudor dynasty is of course stretching for a really long period of about over 100 years. But what are you able to see? You're able to see that during the 17th century, with the arrival of the Stuart monarchy, जब आपकी आ जाती है, that time the problems are actually starting, right? There are a lot of fissures between the king as well as the parliament. This is what we're largely able to see altogether. So ये जब आपकी Stuart dynasty आ जाती है, I'll just hide myself. There are a couple of important pointers on this particular slide that you have to keep in mind. सबसे पहले तो कौन है James? James the first is James the sixth of Scotland. He is the son of Mary Stuart. She was a Protestant and she was a descendant of Henry the when we are looking at Henry the Seventh, unse she that lineage is actually coming in. And please remember that England and Scotland, they were separate until your Act of Union. अभी अभी आपका referendum आया था, so that really changed altogether. Pankaj, good afternoon. Here in India, it's good afternoon, but maybe where you are, maybe in UAE, etc., still a good morning. Okay, so please keep that in mind. And here you are able to see a lot of people want to call it Stuart period, but हम लोग इसको Jacobean period कहते हैं. This Jacobean period is also from 1603 to 1625. This is the time coordinate of the Jacobean age, right? This is the time coordinate that you are able to see of the Jacobean period. Okay, तो ये चीज भी आपको थोड़ी बहुत ध्यान में रखनी पड़ेगी कि after Elizabethan age आपका Jacobean period आ रहा है. Now James, when we are looking at James, and this is where your concept of millenary petition is actually coming in. This is where the concept of millenary petition is coming in. James the first, जो है ना, you were able to see he's of course he's writing demonology. He's also writing a track against tobacco. So he's a very well learned king altogether. But where is the problem? He believes too highly of the divine right of the monarch. अब यहाँ पर जो आपके Puritans थे, Puritans, purest of the pure Protestants, these Puritans were having issues. ठीक है, these Puritans were like, you will have to take reform very seriously, and unfortunately both James and his son Charles did not take these so-called threats very seriously altogether, and this resulted in problem. ठीक है, this resulted in problem altogether. So आप क्या यहाँ पर देख पाते हो? You are able to see, sorry, I'm so sorry. Right. Now, what are you able to look at? You are largely able to see, you are largely able to look at that how when James came in, there was this millenary petition by the English Puritans. अब सबसे पहले, what do we mean by the millenary petition and Puritans कौन थे? Puritans were people. So सबसे पहले आपका Catholic Church था, ठीक है? Now, Catholic Church was absolutely rigid, and that is the reason you are able to see that when Henry VIII, that is Elizabeth's father, was not being permitted of getting married again, he actually starts his own, Church of England, the Anglican Church. अब आपको यहाँ पर क्या देखना है कि रेफॉर्मेशन वैसे ही चल रहा था, राइट, आपके प्रोटेस्टेंट्स वैसे ही आ रहे थे, बट देयर वाज स्टिल अ ब्रांच ऑफ पीपल हु वर नॉट हैप्पी. दे वर सेइंग कि आपके प्रोटेस्टेंट्स भी, एंग्लिकन चर्च भी पूरा का पूरा प्योर नहीं है. एंड these people are actually your Puritans. Who are these people? These are Puritans. What are Puritans called? Puritans are called sons of Calvin. Puritans को क्या कहा जाता है? Puritans को कहा जाता है sons of Calvin. They are people who believed in John Calvin. Calvin क्या believe कर रहे थे? Calvin was believing in predestination. What was Calvin believing in? Predestination. That means I need not work. My fate is already decided. Whatever I will become, whatever is supposed to be happening of me, that is already decided, right? So this is what you will largely able to look at. ठीक है? तो ये चीज आपको ध्यान में रखनी पड़ेगी that how. Good afternoon. Okay. Okay. This was Pankaj, right? This is what you'll have to keep in mind. This is what you'll have to, the students who come late. Remember the age-old teacher joke. You're very early for the next session, right? You've come early for the next session. So this is what was happening. In millenary petition was a kind of a petition that Puritans were actually putting across. कि there should be reforms at a steady pace that should be taking place. ठीक है? और क्योंकि ये इनको ignore करते रहते हैं, that actually leads to the birth of America properly, right? Because these people will go and formulate New England in America. So ये आपके Puritans कौन है? ये आपका Puritans क्या कर रहे हैं? This is your 16th century movement altogether. That is another important thing that you are able to look at. Okay, so please keep that. So sorry. Please keep that in mind. I'm so sorry for increasing my carbon footprint also. Okay. So these Puritans were coming in when Henry VIII also separated from the Roman Catholic Church. You were able to see that Puritans still felt कि इनमें भी corruptions है. So therefore they are the purest of the pure Protestants, right? So they even say that that we are the purest of the pure Protestants also, because we are able to see the problems that are there. ठीक है? So basically यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा है? If we have to see that, you are able to see कि आपके जो Puritans हैं, they were able to see corruptions that were existing. Even Queen Mary के time पर you were able to look at that. Protestants were forced to exile. Puritans का birth कैसे आपका आ रहा है? This is what you're largely able to see, that how Puritans are a religious fraction. Sorry. A lot of people like Hawthorne, Kathleen Hawthorne, they have also written. Kathleen Hawthorne has also written on Puritanism, right? He's a Puritan renegade. He says that Puritans were they were the erstwhile people who would protest, and how you are able to see that these Puritans, these Puritans unfortunately are now falling, right? They are now falling prey to conservative attitude altogether. तो ये Puritans की पूरी history है. And आपका millenary petition क्या करता है? Millenary petition request कर रहा है, excuse me, I'm so sorry. Millenary petition क्या कर रहा है? Millenary petition request कर रहा है for a series of reforms, right? They are saying that church needs to be cleansed still, and I'm so sorry, and you need to spearhead these reforms, right? You need to spearhead these reforms. This is what they're clearly trying to state, right? This is what they're clearly trying to state altogether. Now, one thing more that you'll have to keep in mind is excuse me, I'm so sorry. One thing more that you'll have to remember over here is that when we are talking about the Puritans' requests were not being accepted. Okay? And this was one of the biggest faults. This was one of the biggest faults of both James and his son, because they did not take the Puritans and the Parliament seriously. So sorry. I think I'll have to stop in one or two slides. We'll continue. Don't worry about it. Okay? हाँ, नेहा तभी आपका इस तरह से किया है ताकि आपने थोड़ा पढ़ाई, बिकॉज़ अभी दिसंबर भी है ना, सो वी आर रियली सो देयर इज़ अ रियली ब्यूटीफुल टेड टॉक कि आप देखना, आई विल शेयर द लिंक आल्सो विद यू ऑन द टेलीग्राम प्लेटफॉर्म, एंड दिस इज़ बाय द फाउंडर ऑफ I think it was Coursera, if I'm not wrong, and I'll probably share it. And he talks about how making studies, no, sorry, he's the founder of co-founder of Duolingo. So Duolingo, which tries to teach you English or any language that you want to acquire, right, I'm so sorry, my bad. Coursera, I was saying. So he says that the biggest problem right now with education is that how can you make the education more fun filling, like our task is even more problematic, क्योंकि अगर कोई habit formation करना है, जैसे अगर आपको you want to drink a beverage or you want to probably do something, that habit formation is easy. But habit formation of studying, like, okay, let's come at 10:30, let's come at 12 o'clock for marathons, that is a little tougher for people to crack, right? So, okay, that's so sweet of you. That's very sweet of all of you. Okay. So what are you able to see? You are able to see that there is a growing alienation that comes in between James the First and the Puritans altogether. He rejected all the demands that were made. He was rejecting all the demands that were actually coming his way. He wasn't really accepting any of those demands that that were made for him, so they were completely rejected. और इसीलिए Puritans were really not happy. और आपका gunpowder plot, even though it was a plot that was hatched by the Catholics, but you were able to see that gunpowder plot, ये questions आपसे आते भी हैं related to gunpowder plot, and you have to remember that ये जो 1605 में an attempt to overthrow the monarch. So this was a form of resistance. Of course, Guy Fawkes today hota hai to celebrate that gunpowder plot was not successful, but people were not happy. That is the reality. Okay, so gunpowder plot of 1605. It was a plan which was hatched by the Catholics to blow the House of Parliament in Westminster altogether. It wasn't successful, but clearly, like I'm saying, that monarchs और parliament के बीच में friction, monarchs and parliament के बीच में fissure, दरारें बढ़ती जा रही थी, which is going to be actually leading to the beheading of Charles the First very soon. Okay, now what really happened is that after James, you were able to see that his son Charles the First was coming, and Charles, ये आपको यहाँ पर याद रखना है that when we are looking at Charles the First, right? Charles the First, he dissolved, the two parliaments that were there. He was having his own again. खुद का ही तानाशाही कर रहे हैं. Now, what really happened is that he was very unpopular. Okay, he was very very unpopular altogether. This is what you were able to largely see. One second, I'll just blow my nose. 1 minute. Right. So what are you able to see? You're able to see that James the First is getting succeeded. James the First is getting succeeded by Charles the First, and Charles the First is again incorporating unpopular measures. सबसे पहले James the First ने millenary petition को जो कह रहा है कि reforms करो आप church practices में, उसको reject कर दिया गया है. ठीक है. Of course he is redeeming himself because authorized version of the Holy Bible is coming. That is what you're able to see. ठीक है. तो ये चीज आपको थोड़ी सी ध्यान में रखनी पड़ेगी. ठीक है. He was of course succeeded by his son Charles the First, and again not at all popular. अब देखो Charles the First का क्या problem आ रहा है. पहले पहले तो he was going fine. पहले पहले he was going absolutely fine. पहले पहले कोई भी दिक्कत नहीं आ रही थी. पहले पहले कोई भी problem नहीं आ रहा था उसको. You were able to see that he had no issues whatsoever. But उसके बाद क्या हुआ? He married a Catholic princess. He dissolved three parliaments altogether, and unfortunately he wasn't really accepting or listening or various unpopular measures. So basically crux kya hai, dono na, both James and Charles, James the First and Charles the First, they actually believed wholeheartedly in the divine right of the monarch, which actually triggered their downfall overall. That is what you will largely able to see. तो ये आपको याद रखना पड़ेगा. This is something that you'll have to keep in mind overall. Okay, so please remember that. ये जो petition of right है, ये Sir Edward Coke is also associated with it. According to the Columbia कोलंबिया इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इंसाइक्लोपीडिया, ये क्या होता है, पिटिशन ऑफ राइट क्या है, इट वाज सेंट बाय द इंग्लिश पार्लियामेंट टू चार्ल्स द फर्स्ट एंड ही डिडंट एक्सेप्ट इट ओनली, ठीक है, मतलब आपने साइन कर दिया उसको आप फॉलो ही नहीं कर रहे हो। पिटिशन ऑफ राइट इट वाज इनिशिएटेड बाय सर एडवर्ड कोक, सर एडवर्ड कोक वाज एसोसिएटेड विद इट एंड इनके प्रिंसिपल्स क्या थे, नो टैक्सेस कुड बी लेविड विदाउट द कंसेंट ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट, alright, he imposed taxes, no subject could be imprisoned without the cause shown, right, this was your habeas corpus also, that talks about, if you have lawyer friends you'll know about it, that was also done, no soldiers could be quartered upon the citizenry and martial law could not be used in times of peace altogether, तो हमेशा ये सारे के सारे रूल्स जो 4 इंपॉर्टेंट आस्क थे, petition of right, so millenary petition which was actually asking for millenary petition जो कि रिफॉर्म्स बोल रही थी चर्च में, जेम्स द फर्स्ट को, उसने उसको नहीं सुना, एक्सक्यूज मी, अब सो सॉरी, उसने उसको नहीं सुना एंड इनके सन ने पिटिशन ऑफ राइट को, जिसमें 4 इंपॉर्टेंट चीजें मेंशन थी, इसको हीट नहीं दिया, therefore both the sons both the father and son were actually inviting trouble for themselves, और इसका रिजल्ट हमने क्या देखा, इसका रिजल्ट हम लोगों ने देखा फर्स्ट इंग्लिश सिविल वॉर के फॉर्मेट में, राइट, आपका फर्स्ट इंग्लिश सिविल वॉर हो गया है, ओके, मोनिका रिपीटिंग इट अगेन, इसको एक बार आप लिख लीजिए, इसको एक बार रिपीट कर रही हो, मिलिनरी पिटिशन प्यूरिटन्स की एक रिक्वेस्ट थी कि प्लीज चर्च में रिफॉर्म्स लेके आइए, पॉइंट नंबर 1, जेम्स द फर्स्ट ने उनको नहीं माना, सेकेंड आपका जो राइट ऑफ पिटिशन है, राइट, ये जो आपका पूरा का पूरा आ रहा है, दिस इज व्हाट एडवर्ड कोक, सो ये जो आपका पिटिशन ऑफ राइट आ रहा है बाय एडवर्ड कोक, ये चार्ल्स द फर्स्ट को आ रहा है 4 इंपॉर्टेंट रूल्स के साथ, बेसिक 2 इंपॉर्टेंट रूल्स क्या हैं, बेसिक एक इंपॉर्टेंट रूल है सबसे पहला, दैट यू आर एबल टू सीक टैक्सेस, पार्लियामेंट के एक्सेप्टिंग, पार्लियामेंट शुड आल्सो एक्सेप्ट कि हाँ ये टैक्स लगना चाहिए, ऐसा नहीं कि मोनार्क ने कहीं से भी कोई भी टैक्स स्टार्ट कर दिया है, that was not incorporated, people will be caught with proper, आप ऐसा नहीं कि सडनली काफका की तरह, राइट, ट्रायल में क्या हो रहा है, ट्रायल में ऐसे ही वो घुस रहे हैं, they are saying कि आप लोगों को उठा लिया गया है, that is what is happening, so what are we able to see, thank you Neha, so what are we able to see, petition of right, Charles the first के rule से associated है, he is not paying attention to that, millenary petition James the first के rule में आ रहा है, he is not accepting that request, so this is leading to the Puritans really getting a little worried, and most of the Puritans were parliamentarians at that particular time altogether, तो इससे आपका रिजल्ट क्या आता है, आपका फर्स्ट इंग्लिश सिविल वॉर आ जाता है, ठीक है, इससे आपका फर्स्ट इंग्लिश सिविल वॉर आ जाता है, दैट इज व्हाट यू आर लार्जली एबल टू सी, एंड चार्ल्स ने ट्राई करता है टू डिसॉल्व द पार्लियामेंट, बट दैट रियली डजंट हैपन, आपका फर्स्ट इंग्लिश सिविल वॉर, थिएटर्स वर बैंड, right, you were able to see your theaters are also getting banned altogether, and please remember that there were 2 major groups, one group was your supporters of the Puritan aspects and the others were your so-called royal supporters that you were able to see, तो royal supporters को cavaliers बोला जाता है, इनको tribe of Ben भी बोला जाता है, इनको एक और नाम क्या दिया जा रहा है, tribe of Ben, okay, so please remember that, and Puritans was the second category that you had, Charles the first, ये देखो, a country that until 100 years ago believed in divine right of the monarch, this country did not look twice, they actually beheaded Charles the first, and this was an act that really surprised everyone, और इसके बाद आपका Oliver Cromwell का rule आ जाता है, you are able to see that Oliver Cromwell is actually coming in over here, right, Oliver Cromwell जो है, the new model army आ जाती है, which was led by Oliver Cromwell at that particular time, Oliver Cromwell की death पे people want to restore the monarchy because Puritans का rule भी इतना कुछ अच्छा रहा नहीं था, so people were not very happy with the way that the Puritans had also ruled, I'll come this side so that you can see it, people were not very happy, so they wanted to restore monarchy, remember मम्मा ने बोला पिज्जा नहीं खाना है, मम्मा ने बोला घर को क्लीन रखना है, तो जैसे ही मम्मा जाते हैं तो सबसे पहले क्या हो रहा है, आप पिज्जा ऑर्डर कर रहे हो, सबसे पहले क्या हो रहा है, आप घर को अनक्लीन कर रहे हो, so those all things really become very important, okay, सो प्लीज रिमेंबर अशरफ गौरी आपको मिल जाएगा बच्चे, नीरजा मैम टेक्स्ट बुक इंग्लिश लिटरेचर हस्लर्स इसके नाम से आपको मिल जाएगा, ठीक है। सो प्लीज रिमेंबर दैट, ऑलराइट। नेहा सिंह एंड द डिफरेंस अरोज बिटवीन कैथलिक एंड प्रोटेस्टेंट। कैथलिक एंड प्रोटेस्टेंट के बीच में जो डिफरेंस है वो पहले से ही है। सबसे पहले पूरा क्रिश्चियनिटी कैथलिक है, ठीक है। कैथलिक फॉर्मेट रिजिड है, इसलिए ब्रांचेस निकल के आ रही है नेहा, ठीक है, इसलिए आपकी ब्रांचेस निकल के आ रही है, तो ये चीज आप इसको याद रखना। ऑलराइट, परफेक्ट। चलिए जल्दी से लेट्स मूव ऑन, जल्दी से लेट्स जस्ट गो अ लिटिल फॉरवर्ड ऑल टुगेदर। सो क्लियरली आप यहाँ पर क्या देख पाते हो, एंड हियर यू नो 3 जो आपके जॉन्स हैं वो मैं नेक्स्ट क्लास में स्टार्ट करवाती हूँ, ठीक है। 3 जो आपके जॉन्स है, बिकॉज यू नो आई एम अ लिटिल अंडर द वेदर, तो मैं थोड़ा सा आपको जल्दी से इसको वॉक थ्रू करवा देती हूँ। सो व्हाट आर यू एबल टू सी, आपका एलिजाबेथियन एज के बाद आपका जैकोबियन पीरियड 1603 टू 1625 तक आ रहा है। Then your Caroline period is coming from 1625 to 1649. Then 1649 actually अगर आप देखोगे तो you know after the beheading all the way till 1660s, the Puritan period, which is also called as the age of Milton and Hudson, right? Then 1660 to all the way till 1702 is the Restoration period. तो ये आपकी पीरियड की क्लासिफिकेशन हो जाती है जो आपको याद रखने हैं, ठीक है। ये आपकी पीरियड की क्लासिफिकेशन हो जाती है, इसको आप एक बार लिख भी लीजिएगा। तो जेम्स आपका कब से कब तक रूल कर रहा है, जेम्स इज रूलिंग फ्रॉम 1603 टू 1625। 1625 से 1649 is your Caroline period, और चार्ल्स द फर्स्ट इज कमिंग। फिर आपका प्यूरिटन पीरियड आ जाता है, प्यूरिटन इंटररेग्नम विच इज आल्सो कॉल्ड द आयरन गवर्नमेंट विद द फर्स्ट कॉमनवेल्थ। इसके बाद 1660 से ऑल द वे टिल 1702 इज फेमसली द बर्थ ऑफ योर रेस्टोरेशन पीरियड। और फिर आपका यहाँ से जॉर्जियन पीरियड स्टार्ट हो जाता है। लेकिन many people right, this is the death of Alexander Pope and Jonathan Swift respectively, this period is called the Augustan age, ठीक है। तो ये पॉइंट्स भी आप याद रखिएगा, these are pointers also, you better keep that in mind and you do remember that, okay। So this also becomes important for everyone to keep in mind. अच्छा, ये मैं थोड़ा सा आपको briefly introduce करवा देती हूँ before wrapping it up. There were 3 major Johns of the 17th century. John Milton, who is actually known for his early poetic period, Horton period बोला जाता है, Lady Christ इनको बोला जाता है, इनकी epics आ रही है, pamphlets आ रहे हैं, sonnets आ रहे हैं. John Bunyan, who is giving a new flavor to the prose style of writing altogether, and John Dryden, known for trying his hands at literally everything. So 17th century is a period of the 3 most important Johns that you're able to see, ठीक है। तो 3 आपके important Johns है, that is what you're largely able to look at. हर एक को आप कम से कम अपने Oxford Companion से भी करेंगे, you will actually be able to you know prepare yourself better for your exams also, ठीक है। Now what is basically happening when we are looking at John Milton? John Milton, आपका controversial text, like you know he was talking about the freedom of press in pamphlets like Argopactica. He's also writing on education, he's writing on his blindness also. So Milton is a very active writer, he's a prolific writer. Nativity ode, Horton period से जो आ रही हैं, right, all of that also becomes important for us to keep in mind. So John Milton आपके जो हैं, he's of course important, okay। Milton becomes important overall. Homeric style में ये Paradise Lost लिख रहे हैं, which talks about justify the ways of God to man. They are very clear invocation to the gods and goddesses हो रहा है। तो again, even अगर आज का आपका homework है कि कम से कम आप अपने Oxford Companion से भी, before we do Milton in greater detail, इसमें अगर आप अपने Oxford Companion से भी पर पढ़ के आएंगे, it will be very helpful for all of you, okay। Now when we are talking about Bunyan, when we are looking at Bunyan, okay, when we are looking at John Bunyan is a writer who's of course authoring the Pilgrim's Progress. You know, he's also written the spiritual autobiography called Grace Abounding, or To the Chief of Sinners, right। So again, you know, ये जो सारे के सारे prose style of writing है, religious prose style of writing है, and you know why was he imprisoned? He was imprisoned because he was preaching without a license, ठीक है। So his urge to actually spread his knowledge came very intrinsically to him, came very naturally to him, was something that was coming very naturally to John Bunyan. That is what you were able to see. And of course, the first the first royal historiographer, the first officially appointed poet laureate that you're having is John Dryden. He's considered to be somebody जो जो जैसा जैसे आपका हिंदी में फ्रेज है ना, गंगा गए गंगा राम, जमुना गए जमुना राम. So in Rome, do as Romans do. He's actually doing the same thing, right? जैसे जैसे political parties change हो रही है, Oliver Cromwell, then, but you are able to see, if you read Dryden in greater detail, he was always a royalist. He was always a royalist supporter, despite the fact that his parents were Puritan supporters. ठीक है. अगेन एक पूरा का पूरा क्लास हम इसके अंदर लेंगे. एज ऑफ ड्राइडन ये आपका आ जाता है. दैट इज व्हाट यू आर एबल टू सी. फिर आपकी कविलियर पोएट्स, राइट, कविलियर पोएट्स, ट्राइब्स ऑफ बेन, हम लोग इनको, जैसे कि मैंने कहा, आई विल बी डिस्कसिंग, आई बी आई विल बी फॉलोइंग दिस अप. यू डोंट हैव टू वरी अबाउट इट एट ऑल. हम लोग इन सारी चीजों को अच्छी तरह से दोबारा से देखेंगे ही. वी विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट 17th century लिटरेचर सेपरेटली ऑल्सो. थोड़ा अभी मेरी तबीयत भी वो हो रही थी. बट आज आपका जो मेन बेसिक इंपॉर्टेंट होमवर्क जो मैं डेफिनेटली चाहती हूँ कि आप सब लोग अच्छी तरह से कवर करें. ट्राई जो जो चीजें हम लोगों ने देखी हैं आज ओवरऑल, आप उनको ऑक्सफोर्ड कंपेनियन से एक बार देख सकते हैं, रॉकलेट से एक बार देख सकते हैं. ठीक है, मैं आपको एक सर्व से सारी की सारी बुक्स का देने ही वाली हूँ. कल आई विल बी मीटिंग यू एंड डे आफ्टर टुमारो क्लासरूम स्टूडेंट्स, प्लीज बी प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर योर ओवरऑल क्विज. एंड लाइक वी सेड, टुडे इज 31st, so make sure that all of you are also getting your new year resolutions in place. अच्छी तरह से पढ़ाई करेंगे. Come what may, we'll definitely go from mile to mile and be very well prepared for not just the June 2024 attempt, but all the other minor battles that will be coming in the form of your MPPCS assistant professor exam, in the form of your Northeast set exam, in the form of your UK set exam, which is really right the corner. तभी हम लोगों ने मैराथन क्लासेस भी करी थी थोड़ी सी 2-3, क्योंकि आपका कुछ कुछ बच्चों का यूके सेट एग्जाम भी था. So therefore we wanted to just make sure that we have the momentum going, right? Okay, बाकी stay connected on the Telegram platform. सारी की सारी details मैं आपको Telegram platform पे दे ही दूंगी. नीरजा मैम टेक्स्ट बुक या English Literature Hustlers पे. So please make sure that you are very active about it. अच्छा, before I let you all go, what I'll also do is, one second, I'll just reiterate the last point that I wanted to make. 1 minute. I'll just reiterate the last point before wrapping this up for all of you. 1 second, just give me 1 minute. हाँ, काफी सारे कंटेंट है. ठीक है, so we'll stop over here only, but I will just give me 1 second. I'll just reiterate what I had told all of you. 1 second. I'll just reiterate what I told all of you so that all of you remember ये सारी चीजें भी. ठीक है, don't forget to review, don't forget to revise what I've asked you to look at. ठीक है, please make sure that all of you are reviewing, all of you are going back to these sessions all together that we have done this week. Alright, अब जैसे जैसे आपके set exams आएंगे, आपकी net exam closer आ रहा है जून का, तो we'll be practicing that. Fine. Thanks so much everyone. Take good care of yourself. Thank you so much, Monica. Monica, आज की क्लास वाली An Outline of English Literature. This is a Pearson guide which is by Gwendol Roberts and Thornley. And जो आपका ब्रायन बोन का है, ब्रायन बोन का English Lit 101. ये सारा आप चिंता मत करना, ये वाला मैं आपको टेलीग्राम पे दे दूंगी इनडायरेक्टली. सारा का सारा कंटेंट. ये दो आपने नहीं परचेज करने की कोई जरूरत है, करनी है तो आप कर सकते हैं. Completely up to you. Fine. Thanks Supratim, thanks Devashish, Monica, Aisha. Yeah, history of cavalry, cavalier poets also you can revise. Okay, thanks so much, Monica, Fatima. Happy New Year to everybody. Satyendra, Fatima. All right, take good care of yourselves. And अगर कोई भी और problem हो तो please do let me know. Please revise all of these sessions before we go on to the next week altogether. All right, thanks so much. Thank you. Take care and enjoy your New Year's Eve. Take care. Bye. Thanks, everyone. This is This is the last time that we are signing off for this year. So take care. Thanks.